Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So a little bit of a different setup today, and that's because I want to get this video out to you all as quick as possible. So today we're talking about Starfield, and it's not going to be a gameplay video or anything like that, but we are going to be setting up some hardware to make your experience in Starfield much more immersive, much better. I've been playing Starfield for a while now, as most of you have since it released on the 6th. It actually released on the 1st to try out, and I did do that for a while and noticed gameplay is amazing, the visuals are great, but controlling that spacecraft is just, it's not great. Using a mouse and the keys here to roll around and to orient yourself in space, it's just not natural. So what we're going to be doing today is finding a way to trick Starfield, because it has no native support for setting up or binding to a HOTAS, a hands-on throttle and stick. So what we're going to be doing is faking it so that Starfield is thinking you're using a mouse, when in fact you're using a side stick, or the hands-on throttle and stick here. We're going to hop in here real quick. I'll show you where to go to download the software, how to set it up, and then before you know it, you're going to be in Starfield, flying around like a pro with a HOTAS, like it was meant to be. Okay, so the first thing that I am going to do is download the software, and what we're going to be using is Joy2Key, and basically what that does is it takes your input from, well, we're going to be using a side stick, but typically you would be using like a controller, and you can set it up so that your analog inputs, like using a joystick, can be used for a mouse. So the joystick inputs translate to mouse inputs, and you can use a whole bunch of different buttons set up to your keyboard mappings and everything, and it's a very versatile tool, especially in things like racing simulators, where you want to have the wheel here and you don't want to move your hands around. So you can assign switches to be able to do mouse inputs. That way you don't have to have a keyboard and mouse with you over in your simulator rig, and that's very helpful. But today we're going to be using it to emulate mouse movements, to tie it to mouse movements, and a couple key bindings here. So you head to joy2key.net, and I'll link that down in the description. It's a free version. That's the one we're going to be using. They also have paid versions, so you can use it with other versions of Windows. But since we're using Windows Home, the free version is going to work just fine. So head to Joy2Key, download. You're going to download the installer and install it. Pretty straightforward. Then once you have it installed, you will open it up, and you may not see, like right here I have joystick 1 and joystick 2. I actually have the X56 and the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro hooked up as well. So it may show that I have more than you guys. If you have just one, it should show up as joystick 1 on here. What you can do is go into Settings, Configure Joysticks. We will go into Configure Game Controller Property. That's where we can see everything is listed on here. There's a Logitech Extreme 3D. Open it up, make sure that it's registering all of your inputs. You have your slider, and then you also have the rotation as well. So what we'll be doing is going into Advanced Settings first. Make sure that centers too. If it doesn't center, you can go ahead and calibrate it in that menu. So you can see stick 1, we have up and down, and then left and right, so X and Y axes. What we need to do is also get that set up for stick 2. So we have 2 more inputs. We have the slider here, and then we have the twist, which will be used for the rudder inputs, or yaw. So right here, the slider, I already have it set up, so let's just put it there. So you can see we're moving it up and down, and on here we have slider 1 moving back and forth. So we want that to be our throttle. So when we're flying, you're going to be handling it like on the desk, but throttle's going to be moving around, and then the rest is done with our other hand here. So in order to get that to translate to stick 2, we have to find out what vertical axis we're going to be using here. I know this from testing all of them. It's 7. So now when I go up and down on here, you can see the movement of stick 2 on the vertical axis. Now we also need to assign the twisting here for our yaw, and that's showing up on here as RZ. So take that for the horizontal, drop it down, RZ axis there, and then you can see it goes left and right. Nice and easy. All right. Once you have that set up, hit OK, and then we will start assigning that to the mouse and keyboard inputs. So when you move it, when you move the stick, it'll highlight what direction you have, the stick, and what direction you're moving it in. Okay, so now that we're in here, we can see that when we move left and right, stick 1 left and right, up and down, it highlights which stick that you are moving and which direction. That way you can see what input to assign. So our first one is going to be in the game, mouse forward and back to pitch, forward and back, up and down. So we need to go first down or up, I guess. That would be mouse up or forward. So we'll assign it in here. You go to mouse movement up. And then stick 1 down to mouse down. Now in the game, it has it set up where your roll is actually controlled by A and D. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the right input on the stick and then assign that to the right roll key, which is D. And do the same for left, for A. Right up there. The next thing that we need to bind is the rotation of the stick as the yaw axis. So this is in-game left and right movement of your mouse. So we have to tie those together. So stick 2 left and right, you can see it highlight as I use it. So right is going to be mouse right. Left is going to be mouse left. All right, and the last thing that we have to do is W and S, and that is your throttle. So going ahead and then all the way back so you can reverse. And that is going to be stick 2 up and down. So up is going to be assigned to W, and down is going to be assigned to S. Perfect. Now the only thing left to do is, of course, while you're flying around, you have your lasers, you have missiles, and cannons. Now there's a whole bunch of other buttons that you can assign to your joystick. I haven't messed around with them yet, haven't gotten far enough in the game to start using them, but you have a whole bunch of other things that I've seen on the screen. You can tie all of those to your stick, and it's done through here. Just click on the button, you'll see which button highlights here, assign it to whatever key that you want, and then that should translate to in-game. So the main ones that we want are left and right click of the mouse for the laser and the cannons, and then I believe it's G for the missiles. That's how it's assigned. So I would like to do missiles for this button over here. So you can see that's button 2. So button 2 will assign to G. My main trigger here, button 1 is going to be my lasers, so that will be left click. So left mouse click right there. And then I need another button for, let's see which one. Let's go ahead and do, that one's up. Okay, this one here, button 5. Button 5 will be my cannons. And cannons was right mouse click there. There we go. All right, so I've got everything set up now. Let's just make sure it's all working. Roll is good. Pitch is good. Sure, I've got my thrust forward and back. That's good. And then the yaw. All right, so let me go in to Joy to Key so you can see what I did here. And first off, let's look at the mouse. So for the speed, I put down to 24, and I could actually go a little bit lower just to make it a little more smooth. Also, the mouse movement speed down to 25%. Again, this is all feel based on what you think would be best once you play around in the game. Then you can adjust it to your liking. So this is what kind of works for me. I also turn on acceleration all the way up to the top. And I did this for the pitch movements for the mouse and also for the yaw. So twisting of the stick. And the yaw is very sensitive that can actually be changed or brought down quite a bit more. I believe I have it at 19 right now and 25%. So I'd actually even bring that down even more. So let's see how it is now. We go back in. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's still a little twitchy, a little bit easier to get back to center. We have the lasers, the cannon, and then missiles all work fine. So everything works together. And yeah, overall, that was a pretty painless setup. And I'm looking forward to trying it in game and see how it is when you're actually fighting an enemy, which I have not done yet. I've mostly just been flying around here. Well, that's going to do it for this tutorial. Hopefully this got you set up and flying a spacecraft with the proper controls. Now, if you have found a different version or a different software or settings with the Joy2 key software that works better, go ahead and leave that in the comments. That way I can see it, try it out, and maybe make a follow-up video to this with your suggestions. Now, if you liked the video, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.